she's a mountain, then you're an ocean.
Hi, everybody. This is Lori, and I am the founder and CEO of Inclusivity. And this is our podcast, Inclusivi-TALKS, which, as of today, as of this podcast, is actually becoming Inclusivi-TALKS Sustainability. And we are going to be working with the Alliance for Sustainability on our podcast. And I am so excited about that. I'm also really excited because today I have Terry Gips, who is the president of the Alliance. And Terry, in a second, I'm going to get to you and ask you some questions, but I want to start by saying how we met a little bit and how we're collaborating. So in addition to collaborating on the podcast, which is now going to be all about creativity, which it's always been, but also about sustainability and kindness and justice and equity and health. So I'm really excited about that. But on top of that, Terry and I met because I recently wrote a book called You Can Save the World. In fact, you're the only one who can. And Terry was recommended as a reviewer of the book by a mutual friend of ours, Mary Harris. And Terry liked the book, and we started talking, and they were looking for board members for the Alliance. And so not only did Terry review the book, we've also decided to donate 10% of the royalties from the book to the Alliance for Sustainability. I've joined the board, and now we're joining together for the podcast. So Terry, this has been kind of a whirlwind connection for us.
It really has been, Lori. And what I just want to make sure everybody understands is just what a remarkable person you are. And we don't just develop relationships with other organizations and people this quickly unless they really are quite exceptional. And we just so value who you are and what inclusivity is all about, that we have so many, all of our core values are shared. And so we're so excited to be able to partner with you on so many, not just with the book and with the podcast, but so many other things that, we have talked about. So we're really looking forward to that. And really, thank you for being you.
Well, you are so welcome, and thank you. I feel the same way about you. So, Terry, I'd like to start by having you tell us a little bit about how you got into the Alliance, and then I want to know more about what sustainability is for you. So, to start, how did you become the president of the Alliance?
Well, it began because I was interested in a question that author Frances Moore Lapay had asked. We had been talking. She had written in her books, Diet for a Small Planet and Food First Beyond the Myth of Scarcity, whether it's possible for us to feed everybody on the planet. And the answer to that question is yes, we have enough food to feed everybody, but there are political and economic systems that stop people from getting the food they need. But I asked her the question, yes, I agree with that, but is it possible to feed everyone without destroying the planet in the process? And she said, I don't know. Why don't you go find out? So that led me to travel around the world to 45 different countries over a year and a half. And I got the answer to the question, which is absolutely yes, we can do it. I've seen phenomenal organic and sustainable regenerative farming systems all over the world. And it's really one of the most hopeful, positive things that I've ever experienced. And also during the course of that, I was in Sri Lanka and I had a transformational near death experience where I got sort of three messages from God. And the first of those messages that my body is a temple and I needed to purify it. The second is that my purpose is to serve people, animals, and the earth, all life. And the third is we have very little time left to turn things around. And with that sort of guidance, and having met all of these great sustainability leaders from all over the world, I gathered some of us together and we talked about creating something called the International Alliance for Sustainable Agriculture in 1983. So we went ahead, we created it. I was one of the 5 co-founders of it, people from around the world. And nobody else had the time or energy to run the organization. So I ended up running it, and we had very little money. So I actually worked at restaurants um, at night as a wait person to have the money to be able to work during the day. So that's really how the Alliance got founded um, almost 40 years ago. And I served as 11 years as the executive director. And things changed when our goal was to always to bring about sustainability. And we defined sustainability from the very beginning as having four things. It had to be ecologically sound, economically viable, socially just, and humane. Humane is a great word. It means to embody our highest values. So, how we treat people, animals, and the earth. And so we have been a big proponent of that um, ever since the beginning. We feel sustainability is nobody has achieved sustainability. It's an amazing goal that we can all work towards. And it includes all different kinds of approaches like regenerative and permaculture and other kinds of great approaches. So we're very inclusive, but we think it's a very, very important goal to strive for. So we decided the founders were all involved in agriculture and in other areas. And we really felt that um, sustainability was the goal, but that food systems and agriculture were so problematic in terms of what was happening that we had to address that first. So that was our focus. And we did that for quite some time uh, in Minnesota, but also in Africa and Asia and other parts of the country and around the world. And ultimately, we were delegates to the UN Earth Summit in Rio in 1992. And we were able to work with more than 100 other non government organizations and various governments. And we were able to get all 180 countries who were attending the UN Earth Summit to adopt sustainable agriculture as their goal. It was an extraordinary achievement, very inspiring. And we had to, in many cases, battle our own country to be able to get that to be passed. Once we passed that, one of the things we realized is that we had also had success passing legislation in Minnesota and at the federal level in the United States that a lot of our work in sustainable agriculture had already been accomplished. And we really felt it was time to think larger about overall sustainability and how we could move that forward. And at the same time, we felt that so many of the problems were being generated here in the United States that we needed to change and shift that from focusing in other countries to focusing here in the United States, that we were the source of the challenge. So we made a change and we became the Alliance for Sustainability. So that's sort of how that happened. And I did not continue as the executive director. We got other executive directors, and I served in a volunteer capacity as the president of the Alliance, and I'm still in that role.
Okay. One of the things I just want to highlight here is that I think one of the connections between us and one of the draws for me is that inclusivity was started with the goal of taking care of the earth and all the people who live here. And my very strong belief is that it has to be all of us all the time, and that includes the planets or the plants and the animals and the earth itself, as well as every human, that our diversity makes us great in all of those areas. And so when we connected and I heard your definition of sustainability, for me, that was an aha exactly moment that I was excited about, because I also had just written the book on sustainability that I'm really
Yeah.
proud of. And so I'm just, it was an exciting moment of connection that I think is important as we move
I'm
forward.
I'm
So,
so glad that that you had that experience, and I think you're absolutely right about this interconnection that all of us have.
mhm.
And I think if we could remember that and see ourselves in that way, we'd be in far better shape.
I agree with that. So, Terry, one of the things that, so you started 40 years ago. How have you felt about the organization? And it sounds like you created some real change and made a difference, and then decided to change the focus to the United States? How have things gone since then, since that change to Alliance for Sustainability and focusing more here?
We Yeah, it's been wonderful. We have worked in so many different areas, supporting community solar, to be able to have clean water. We've worked on something called Community Table Co-op, working with low income and immigrant groups that are here, Somalis and Hmong and Latinx and all different Native Americans, all different types of groups, to support them in organic agriculture and having a market and providing food in corner market stores. Yeah, so we've had just a number of different successes, banning certain pesticides and just a whole number of different things, developing the series principles for corporate environmental responsibility. We were one of the smallest of the environmental groups that joined with labor, with religious organizations, with uh, the state of New York and the state of California, city of New York and state of California pension funds, to develop these 10 principles for corporate environmental responsibility that have really changed the way so many corporations do business. So we've really been in a number of different areas for a long time. When we got our previous executive director, Sean Gashevsky, he had a background in neighborhood organizing, and so we shifted. I should mention that one of the things we did was the Living Green Expo, where we'd get 18, 20,000 or more people to come to the Minnesota State Fairgrounds and promote all kinds of great green living practices. So we've just had a number of those kinds of successes over the years, working with farm labor unions on table grape boycotts and other kinds of things like that. But when Sean joined us, he had this background in neighborhood organizing, and we really shifted. And for almost half of our existence, we have been working to support sustainable communities. We would have an annual sustainability conference, a neighborhood sustainability conference, and then work on a number of different areas. We worked with congregations. We created something called Congregations Caring for Creation. And many different forms, working with sustainable businesses on sustainability. We had a sustainable business forum to help shift them. So a number of different things. And the last few years, the last 3 years, we really have focused on something we call resilient cities and communities. And we've just had great success with that. We work with 50 different cities on how they can change their practices and also how they can work together, but also how they can take their voice to the state legislature and also to the Public Utilities Commission. We haven't had that voice, and part of that is to help support citizens in getting involved. And helping to get city council members elected who are supporting a commitment to resilience. So it's really been multifaceted, and it's been, I think, a really positive development. And we have Republicans and Democratic mayors and city council members. So it's really not a partisan thing. It's really, how do we shift where we are to where we need to go?
Yeah. So, Terry, a couple questions. First of all, who's Sean? Because you mentioned his name and you hadn't mentioned him otherwise, so we don't know what his position is.
Yeah. So Sean was our executive director
Okay.
for the Alliance for Sustainability for almost 20 years.
Okay.
And so he, just did a really wonderful job. He has more knowledge about cities than anybody else I know anywhere and about what's going on. And he really utilized that to help these cities shift their practices.
So, Terry, that brings me to I want to talk in a minute about some really big stuff that's going on, because I know, being on the board now, that there's a big shift in the alliance, and I'd like to talk about that and how that happened, and more importantly, what that means for the alliance future. But I also wanted to ask, kind of looking back at the past, 20 years or past 40 years even, and you've had different sort of sets of goals going forward. What would you say right now if you had to define for us what the goal of the alliance is? How would you define it today? So what's the next 20 years look like? What are we doing for the next?
That's a great question, and it's something that we've been discussing. As we've been dealing with the impacts from climate change, which are growing increasingly severe, as we are dealing with COVID and its impact in terms of our economy and people's health, and the disparities that have become obvious, and the murder of George Floyd and so many other Black people and Black men in particular, and and even more, just the general inequity that we experience in all aspects of our society. And we have always felt, as I shared about our definition of sustainability, that social justice was a core element that has to be there. It's not just about the environment, which is how sometimes people think about sustainability. It's never meant that just for us. And it's not about continuing what is. It's sustainability is really a place that none of us have ever experienced. And we are going to have to create that. And it's going to take all of us co creating that together in a diverse, inclusive way, what that is going to look like. We can't leave people out. And so I think that for us, that's what we're exploring right now. How can we co create that world of our dreams that we all want to live in? A world that actually is equitable, that is healthy, that is kind,
Mhm.
and is thriving on all different levels. That's really what we are about. And we have a number of different ideas on how we can do it. But I think that's really what our goal is. And I will just say that to do that really is going to require some transformation.
Mhm.
It's going to require us to really think differently about who each of us is and what our abilities are to change things from what is. And we want to support people in being able to look at that and to be in that question. And then we want to work with other organizations that are committed to doing that. We feel that collaboration is so key, and that if we are strategic about it, that we can create these great tipping points for bringing about transformation. So that's and fundamental systems change. So that's sort of what we see as the next 40 years. There are so many opportunities to be able to do that.
What I'm excited about, Terry, is that the Alliance has had a 40-year history, and every goal you've set out to do, you've done. And I think that for me, if I were a consumer thinking about organizations to support, that would matter to me a lot. That you have shifted gears over the 40 years to what needed to be done, and then you've done it. So for me, that's really hopeful and wonderful. So, Terry, my understanding is that part of this decision to really focus on these big issues that you see before you, the climate change, the racial inequities, the COVID, the health disparities, those kinds of things. You had to also sort of refocus as far as, well, split off part of the company, actually, split up off part of the organization and sort of determine that there were really two paths going on. And so those paths just weren't um, weren't both possible under the one umbrella. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's accurate. What I will say is sort of two different things about that. Um, One of the beliefs that we have always had is about empowerment. And we really believe in the significance of people having a voice. Um, it's not us serving these other people and doing it for them. It's how do we support them in, and empower them in leading. And so we've been doing all this great work with all of these cities for so long. And we have some phenomenal leaders that have come forth. I mean, it's really, really exciting. And so we sort of feel now is the time for them to step forward and to be the leaders of the new organization. We really want those voices to be really heard and to run the organizations. And we feel diversity is important in that and everything else. So this is sort of a perfect time to be able to launch, a new organization that is named after the program that we've been doing called Resilient Cities and Communities. And we're very excited about that. And our former executive director, Sean Gashevsky, is going to be the program director there. And our former board chair is going to be the chair there. And another board member is the vice chair. And so we really, we're just very excited about that new organization as a separate nonprofit being able to be created. And meanwhile, we have been looking at our roots. Where did we come from 40 years ago? What did sustainability really mean? And what does it mean today now that we have all of these different challenges that are going on? And as we've thought about that more, we really have felt that there are these sort of two different parts. How do we support people in dealing with these kinds of changes? And what are the kinds of perspectives that will help support them? Because a lot of this is not easy. It's really a challenge. And the second thing is, how do we mobilize them to take action and work with already existing great groups that we've partnered with for a long time and really support their efforts in any number of different campaigns that they're doing, as well as policy initiatives at the state, local, national, and even at the international level. How can we sort of be a catalyst? And one of our goals is to grow to having more than 1 million members, including individuals and organizations, so that we can help bring that shift that really we need to accelerate. We need absolutely to scale sustainability, health, equity, and kindness into every institution that we have and to every policy. And we think that by this kind of positive co-creation and collaboration, that we can play a key role in doing that. We've had a history of doing that for 40 years with all kinds of organizations on all kinds of subject areas, including things like we had a humane sustainable agriculture project where we worked with cattlemen and ranchers along with animal rights people to find common ground. And we succeeded in really shifting a whole number of practices. And we feel that, in every case where we've been involved, we've been able to really have people come together and see things in a new way. We've used a tool called the natural step that was developed in Sweden. And we've used that with all kinds of corporations and congregations and cities and counties, all kinds of different organizations to shift the way they operate. Mm-hmm. And so we know that if you are honest and have integrity and you really engage people so that they own it, that we can bring about fundamental shifts.
I love that. So, Terry, what else is new? What else are you feeling like, well, I want to talk about this? What else is coming up?
I'm just really excited about our podcast. So this is like my very first ever podcast. I've always wanted to do one. So I want to thank you for this opportunity, for you creating this and then facilitating it. And I'm excited to be able to do podcasts with you and bring in other hosts that will join with us in doing it. And there are so many incredible people. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about your book. I think it's a phenomenal book. And it says so much in so few words and is beautifully done. And I think it's a great gift to give to people for any occasion. So I'm excited about us promoting it. Mm-hmm. And I think it will really help shift a lot of people's understandings because of your holistic perspective about what sustainability is, which often is lacking. So that's why I just so appreciate it. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that we're going to have a new website that we'll be launching, and it will keep getting better and better. And that we're going to, have some town hall forums that will be coming up where we want to interact. We'll be having workshops on various aspects of sustainability. And there'll be a crowdfunding campaign that we'll be doing in the future. And so people really can make a difference with that. And then this week, we're excited that there's Give to the Max, Give Min Minnesota, where people have an opportunity if they want to be engaged in the alliance, they can always get a free membership. But if they're willing to contribute, it can really help us make a difference. And then the last thing we're going to be hiring a, an executive organizer part time and also an executive director on an interim basis part time. And I'm really excited about the fact we're going to be launching a campaign for sustainability, health, equity, and kindness. And we'll be doing viral video and we'll be doing all kinds of social media and we'll be engaging our members. And we feel that this campaign can make a massive difference on all different levels. So, just a whole number of things that we're really looking forward to.
It's a big moment, and I think it's an important, this is the moment. This is a moment for all of us to take a breath and say, there's no more time. And now is the time to come together and create a sustainable future for people, for animals, for the planet. And I love that, and I love being involved with it. I'm excited about the podcasts. Our goal, you and I have talked about that we are all about creativity, and I believe that anybody who is actively working in the sustainable space is creative. People are constantly trying to think of new ways to make things better, to create a world for all of us. So our guests are going to be a diverse swath of creative, wonderful people who can tell us about how they're making the world better, how they're changing things. And so I'm excited about that as well. So the
Yeah, one thing just to add on to that, I appreciate that you said four and four and four plants, four animals, four people, all of that. And the Alliance has always been about that. We are for sustainability. And it's not so much that we're not against anything, but what we try to do is be for things. And we feel that by taking a positive attitude, trying to find common ground, that we can bring about really fundamental shifts. And that through a number of the things that we've done, we've been able to bring Republicans and Democrats together. It's not easy, but we have succeeded in being able to have different people from different backgrounds and corporations and congregations and cities and all different schools, all different types of institutions can collaborate and work together. And we feel that's what we really are going to need to do given the scale. We can't leave people out. We really need to all work together to help bring that about and do it in a positive and fun way without the finger pointing and the judgments and the self-righteousness that sometimes environmentalists will do. We need to be inclusive of all people.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that we've talked about previously, Terry, is that kindness is such a key feature to this. And I think for anybody who doesn't know, kindness is a powerful force. And unfortunately, we have a lot of negativity around us right now. And the research shows that for every negative comment or action that you see, you have to see something like 5 positive actions just to level the playing field. And
Yeah,
so I love that the Alliance for Sustainability, part of our mission is being that positive force, being the positive person in the room, highlighting the successes and explaining how people can create those successes in a positive, joyful way. And so I think that's how we change the world. That's how we change
exactly.
the narrative that's so negative. That's how we shift it to something that
Exactly.
saves us.
And and I totally agree. And the one thing that we've always found is we can do that and not be Pollyanna-ish. We can do that without, putting on glasses that make the world look all nice and rosy. We're realists. We understand the challenges. We want to talk from the heart. We
Mhm.
want to have very honest, open conversations about how we're feeling. Sometimes it's really hard. It's really a struggle. We want to be able to talk about that at the same time that we can talk about the breakthroughs and all of these amazing developments with what Maya Angelou calls our sheroes and heroes, everyday people who are really making a profound difference in the world. We want to highlight those people who really are just amazing in making a difference. And we think when people know and meet those people that we work with every single day, they'll be deeply touched and inspired.
Yeah. So, Terry, this has been very exciting. We're almost at the half hour mark, which is, I think, our goal was to not have this run over about half an hour. So, I just want to say, what would you, if people want to be involved with the Alliance, what should they do right now if they want to know more? What would you like them to do?
Well, we would like to invite them to become a member, and you can become a member very simply. You can just send an email that you would like to become a member to info, at afors.org. That stands for Alliance for Sustainability, A4S, .org. Or they can go to our website, and if they'd like to make a contribution or a donation, they can do that on the website, or learn more about the Alliance and our programs. And oh, one of the things I forgot to mention is that we're going to be releasing our Declaration of Co-Creation and Interdependence. So that will be on the website. And if you become a member, we'll keep you updated and share all kinds of opportunities for getting involved, or knowing what's going on, or writing a letter, or other kinds of things where you can really make a difference. So we really welcome people to join with us wherever they may be. We think it's important to have people everywhere who are engaged in this, and then let other people know as well. Share about this podcast and let people know, and buy this book that you've got that will be coming out, and give it to people, because it will make a difference in their lives. And so I think if people can just take one or two of those steps, they'll be part of our family. And once you're part of our family, I think it'll just be a very inspiring experience.
Yeah. And I think once they're a part of the family, what they bring to it will make the family better.
I
Um,
think so.
I think
We need everybody's voices. We're not going to do this just with a small group of people. And Margaret Mead may be right that that we can change the world with a small group of people, but if we have a large group of people, we can change it that much faster. So we hope that people will join with us, and they can just go to www.afors.org.
So we will be back with more podcasts. This is again Inclusivi-TALKS Sustainability. And this is the new podcast format. We'll be having guests. Terry will come back again and talk with us about what's happening with the Alliance as it grows. Terry might very well be a host at some point. We'll have other hosts, and the goal will be spreading creativity and sustainability, and telling stories. So Terry, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Lori. Thanks for all the great work you're doing and being who you are.
And for everybody who's listening, thank you so much, and we hope to see you sometime. Thanks. Bye.